to this day, it's such a shock.
Well, when did you go to Germany to join Pop?
Well, then, after the armistice, they wanted to keep some of the men over there to go into Germany. And those men that were not allowed to come back home to their families were allowed to send for their wives because it was such a long separation. So he wrote to me and said that he wanted me to rent the house and that he would come back and pick me up and take me back to Germany. In the meantime, I'd had a very bad operation and I was recovering. And I was all right. I had had a physical breakdown after Eddie died, and that was part of it. And so I was left there to try to rent the house. You had finally gotten your appointment to West Point, and I'll never forget that morning as long as I live. I had taken Freckles down to Connecticut Avenue, and I had done everything I knew of to get you an appointment to West Point. And finally, one of your father's classmates from Golden, Colorado, came by. He was he was a mining engineer, and he had to come to Washington, and he was an SAE, and he came by to see how I was doing. The men sort of watched. When they could, they would come to see me. And this was early in the spring, and I said, I'm having such a hard time trying to get an appointment for my son. And he said, don't worry, I'll get it for you. And at that time, he was working out in Nevada. And he knew McCarran. And through McCarran, he got you an alternate. It wasn't, what's the first?
Principal.
A principal. He couldn't get the principal, but he got you an alternate. And you were going to Sullivan's preparatory school. So this one morning, I don't remember what month it was. Do you remember?
Probably April.
Around there. I was just turning up Kanawha Street, and I saw Catherine up out of our house, jumping up and down on the sidewalk and waving to me to come. And I was a block and a half away, and I didn't know what had happened, and I started to run. And I ran, and I finally got within earshot of her, and she said, Happy's got an appointment. Happy's got an appointment. Get on the telephone. And I did, and the one that had the principal had dropped out. See, war was over by that time, so he wasn't too interested in getting into the Army. So here was a principal offered to you. I can't tell you how I felt. Because I felt like if I don't get my son in West Point, I don't know, maybe it was before the war. It was before the end of the war.
No, it was after. It was in 46.
Well, anyway, it was all during the war that I felt that I had to get you in there or I was going to lose another son. I just knew it was up to me. Pop couldn't do anything. Ben wouldn't help me.
Well, see, I was trying to get an appointment the previous year,
yeah,
which was during the war.
Yeah, that's right. And you couldn't get a thing then. So Pop wrote and said that after that you were going to go into West Point, and Catherine was had a job in George Washington University as freshman instructor for the freshman girls in the sports. And so Margaret offered to take Catherine so I could leave. Is it all over?
No, keep going.
And so I got you off to West Point and then moved Catherine into Margaret's. And then this Professor Flood, they call him Dr. Flood, a mathematics professor at Princeton, came out to see the house because this real estate agent was trying to find a renter for me. And he brought this man by the name of Flood out to me, and my house was so lovely with little white ruffled curtains and everything. And will you give me a break?
Yeah.
I caught and
Yeah.
took to the zoo.
Yeah.
Is that interesting enough to talk about?
Got the neighbor. There were German kids there, I think, weren't they?
I don't know what they were, but they were rowdies. They lived behind me. And they had a pet rabbit like Poppy that they would turn loose. And that rabbit went all over the neighborhood, and the dogs would chase it. And it would run around my house, and it made nothing but a mud track with all the dogs going. It took all the turf and everything out, and it was during the winter, and it was a mess. And then I found that he was eating the shrubs, all the hemlock and the shrubs. He was ruining my garden. And so one time I went out and crept up on that rabbit. It was during the time when the children were in school. And he was feeding on the shrubs. And I got hold of him and I carried him down in the basement. And then I got a carton that a coffee percolator had come in. And, well, first of all, I put him in the maid's bathroom, the toilet, and shut the door, because I didn't know then what I was going to do with him. And so you came home from Sullivan's, and I didn't tell you what was there. I said, go look in the maid's bathroom. I don't think I told you what was there, because you went down there and you opened the door, and when you did that, the rabbit was climbing the walls right around all over, and you shut it. It came tearing upstairs. And I think you left for Sullivan's. I don't think you were there when I packed that rabbit in the carton. I think you came home for lunch and then you went back, and then I decided I'd take that rabbit to the zoo. And so I got him by his ears and I lowered him down in this carton, and he was too big for the carton, so I had to get the sides and press him down, and I pressed him on down, and I got a rope and I tied it around, and then I carried it by the top, and I got my things on, and I went down to the bus stop on Connecticut streetcar. I guess it was bus. And while I was waiting for the bus, I had this on the ground by me, and he was making a lot of noise, and I was afraid the people standing around me. But I was so guilty. I knew somebody knew I had that rabbit in that box. So the bus came along, and I got up, and I decided I'd sit right behind the motorman. And I got off at the bus stop. I had that rabbit on the floor, and I could hear him making all kinds of noises. And I hoped that the motorman didn't hear it. So I got off with my carton, and I walked into the zoo, and I walked about, I could still see the entrance, but I was down in the zoo on a grassy place, and there was nobody down there at that time. So I untied the carton, and I turned it on its side, and the rabbit didn't come out. And it was lying there, the ears were open. Well, it happened to be that was the wrong end of the rabbit. So I took the box and I shook it like this, and I shook him out on the ground, and he sat up, and he looked all around, and he wouldn't run. And I began to panic. I kept doing that way, and he wouldn't move. And I looked up, and here was a policeman watching me. And he was just standing there, looking at me with this rabbit. And I just took the box, and I took the string, and I picked it up, and I walked right out of the zoo, and he didn't say anything to me. But I know that he was convulsed, and I know that I was scared to death.
Guilty.
I was so guilty because I had stolen the children's rabbit. I had brought it down and put it on government property. I didn't know what they were going to do to me. And I didn't know whether he was going to run over and grab me. But I kept walking. I walked right out of the zoo and right down to the corner, and I got on the bus and came home. I had committed a crime, I knew it, but I could not have that dog and rabbits running around. I didn't want to kill a rabbit. And I had asked them not to let the rabbit loose in my property, and they didn't care. So I just took it into my own hands.
Vigilante.
What?
You were a vigilante.
I just did it.
Did they ever talk to you about it?
They came around in the afternoon after school. Have you seen our rabbit? I said, no, I haven't seen any rabbit. I haven't seen a rabbit. God. Wasn't that awful? And I told Ben that, and he didn't think it was funny. I wrote to your father. I don't think your father thought it was funny. But you thought it was funny. But I don't think you approved of me.
Well, I like the rabbit.
Yeah, that's it. You like the rabbit. Well, the rabbit was all right down there. He had the whole zoo to run around in. And I got him near the place where there were grazing people, not people, but deer and these little things that ate grass, and they had hay out there and everything. And I thought the rabbit could eat hay. I didn't know what rabbit. I'm sure they put. I thought that was the cutest thing.